I'm Jan Bedell, the Little Giant Steps Brain Coach. Welcome back for another Brain Coach tip. I want to thank you for being proactive and alert to anything that can help your child be more successful. Please do a friend a favor. Share the website braincoachtips.com with someone you know. You may be surprised to learn that you are answered prayer for someone you didn't even know was struggling. Little Giant Steps also has many free articles and tremendous resources available to you at littlegiantsteps.com. I have always known that the chemistry of the body can have profound positive or negative effects on your brain, and dietary changes can only go so far to make a change in this chemistry, or what I call a person's metabolic function. If you know anyone that is having issues with their immune system, please encourage them to set up a free metabolic consultation. This could be one of the root causes of issues that an individual may be struggling with. Just click on Metabolic Consultations on the homepage at littlegiantsteps.com. Now let's see what else besides addressing the metabolic piece of the puzzle is available to help reduce the stress at your house. This time of year, I have many people start calling the office because their child is struggling with the curriculum. This may be happening to you as well. Oftentimes with parents, panic sets in because you feel like maybe you're on the wrong track, or you've wasted money, or you just feel lost as you have tried everything and you don't know what to do next. That was a similar feeling for me after 5 years of homeschooling with the traditional approach for my daughter that had special needs. She was just not making progress, and I didn't know what else to do. I was about to give up, and I found that neurodevelopment changed everything. She started making improvements. It was just amazing to me because I had worked so hard for 5 years, and this was a lot easier, but it was very different. It was hard for me to accept because I was traditionally trained. Some of what I'm going to say may be a struggle for you as well, as sometimes it's opposite to what you've been taught or you feel like is right to do. But just have an open mind because it really can make a difference. One of the areas that we're often taught is that children should do their work independently. That's what our culture believes, and they insist on the child doing their own work. Well, in my opinion, those blanks on that piece of paper is really a test. You don't think you're testing your child every day, but if you're sitting them down in front of something that has blanks, that really is a test. Nobody enjoys being tested all the time, and it causes stress. So a myth that we need to dispel today is that you're cheating if you do part of a lesson for a child. Let's look at how much stress it would take off of you if your child that thinks they stink at math gets you for 10 minutes to do every other problem for them. You do a problem, they do a problem. You do a problem, they do a problem. In the neurodevelopmental world, we call this input, which is totally important for their ability to output or their success. When you do this, your stress goes down. You don't have to be on them all the time to sit down and do it. And their stress goes down because they're not on the spot to conquer something they have a mental block about anyway. You might say, I don't have time to sit down with them for 10 minutes because I have all these other children and these other things I have to do as a homeschool mom. I understand what you're talking about, but I want to propose something. I think you would spend a lot less time in just sitting down and doing it with them instead of taking time to cajole them to do it. Or it probably is going to take twice as much time trying to correct what they did wrong. So let's just think about it differently. My encouragement is to give up that idea that they have to do it on their own. Let's take reading struggles, for instance. If a child is under pressure to perform, like in reading, and stumbles, and you spend all kinds of time trying to help them sound it out, then they're going to want to avoid reading because it's such a struggle. When they have struggles like this, you want to check their processing, because if you're using phonics, which I'm assuming that you are, it requires the ability to hold pieces together. So you want to check out the free test kit at the store at littlegiantsteps.com. Get the auditory processing and the visual processing one because those are both important, but auditory is extremely important in the use of phonics. It will tell you in there what's required for phonics and a way to get that skill up so that they can just hold those pieces together and get that word out. That'll take a lot of the stress off. In the meantime, just tell them the word. Better yet, read a passage, a paragraph, or half a page, and they read the same thing that you just read. Now, oftentimes when I mention that to people, they say, well, aren't they just memorizing the word? Well, they are having frequent exposure to sight words, which is a really good thing because if you think about it, we're really sight readers. As soon as we know a word, then we just say it. Here, we'll give you a paragraph that you can read that if you tried to read it phonetically, it would not make any sense. But you can read it because your brain immediately turns it into the word that you know. So it's okay to build sight word vocabulary while you're working on their auditory processing. Then phonics is a fabulous way to teach reading or to sound out words that you don't know and then add them to your sight word vocabulary. If we sounded everything out, it would take us forever to read anything. So again, this is another area that I've asked you to think differently. I seem to do that, go kind of against the grain, because many times what we're doing is just not working. Let's look at another stressor. This is our human tendency to compare one child with another. Remember, all of your children are different and they have different strengths. And this is really a good thing because it would be really boring if we were all the same, having the same abilities, same strengths, and same talents. So, again, you've got to raise your children up in the way that they should go. And this is like, what has God put in them to do? And what strengths are those in those areas? So don't compare one child to the other. Another stressor that can be easily avoided is feeling like you have to do every activity, fill in every blank, and read every word of your curriculum. As a curriculum designer myself, I can tell you that there is not any perfect curriculums. The curriculum author does not know your child. You are the expert on your children. That is what makes homeschool so wonderful. You can customize anything to suit their needs. Some curriculums go too fast for some children and too slow for others. That is the freedom I hope I bring to you today. Adjust the curriculum for your child. There's nothing magic about completing every little jot and tittle in a particular curriculum. If your child is strong in one area, skip parts of that curriculum and get to what they need next. If they're weak in an area, spend more time on that. Not making them do a bunch of stuff, but inputting what they need. Let's say fractions, for instance. If they're having trouble with fractions in the book, you might want to do some other things like cut paper into pieces, cut sandwiches, count money, so that they can see that fractions are a part of a whole. Also in the math curriculum, a real stressor is math facts. If they don't know their math facts, it can be huge. You give them the speed drill and say, go faster, and they get under all this pressure and they can't even think of what their answer is. And one of those reasons is we haven't had enough input. So I want to encourage you to check out the rapid recall system that teaches their math facts in 6 minutes a day. This helps them to have the input that they need to have that rapid recall that all of you want, that make math go a lot faster, quicker, and easier to remove that stressor. Another big stressor for children is that their brain is just not well developed because of our cultural practices, as I mentioned before. The pathways in the brain are like a map in a large metroplex. And just like in a city, if there's traffic jams in the brain, when the pathways aren't working well, then it can cause all kinds of issues. Let's take handwriting, for instance. If this is a stressor at your house, the pathway from the brain to the hand may not be developed well. So there's things that you can do about that. I did a podcast on handwriting, so just look back at the different ones, and I'll give you those activities to do to help that brain work better. Because if your brain doesn't recognize your hand, it can't make it do those letters like it's supposed to. When the brain is working efficiently, it's like a computer hooked up to high-speed internet, where if the same computer is hooked up to dial-up connection, it's very inefficient. It's still the same smarts in the computer, but the connection isn't working well. This has no reflection on IQ or how smart a person is. It's just a matter of those brain connections. So I want to encourage you, for brain organization at the lowest level, look at the podcast number 26 and 27, Organizing Einstein. This will help you understand more about that. And then I talked about processing, which is that short-term memory. You get that kit at littlegiantsteps.com, and you can also listen to podcast number 4, The Best Kept Secret in Education. That will help you understand more about holding pieces together. That's important for following directions and staying on task and using phonics, all of those kinds of things. Just those efficient pathways. And then dominance, this is where the information is stored, having to do with long-term memory. I want to encourage you to listen to podcast number 23, But You Knew It Yesterday. Well, that's another stressor. If you say to a child, you knew this yesterday, they think, well, I must not be very smart because mom says I know this and I don't know it. And it's just a matter of the brain didn't put it in the right place for them to find it. Now, if you want to be really proactive for anyone that's 7 years old or older for helping these struggles, I want to encourage you to look into Developmental Foundations. You can get information on that on the Little Giant Steps website. And we're continuing to add to our offerings of neurodevelopmental innovations. So if you've got somebody that's a preschooler or a kindergarten and you want to make sure all of these pathways are developed, look into the preschool and kindergarten mini programs there on the Little Giant Steps website. This is going to help 6 main areas of human development and really get those brains ready for formal academic. For both Developmental Foundations and these mini programs, we have what we call web training, where the information is on the website, where we give a demo where you can see somebody working with a child and explain how that's all happening and how you're supposed to do those activities. If you have something that we have not covered yet that's really a concern of yours, please let us know at office@littlegiantsteps.com, and we'll try to include that in our Brain Coach tips in the future. Just put Brain Coach topics in the subject line. Again, our time has gone fast. That's all the time I have for today. I hope that I have assisted you in your journey toward helping the stress come down on your children's academic performance day to day. If you make it a priority to use the tips that I've given you in this podcast and refer to those other podcasts to enhance your child's brain, your homeschool experience could be much less stressful and much more productive and pleasant for both of you. Remember to tell your friends about the free metabolic consults that are available. Go to metabolic consults on the homepage at littlegiantsteps.com and we'll get that started for you. You can also follow me on Pinterest for many ideas that align with the neurodevelopmental approach. I am Jan Bedell Brain Coach. That's BEDELL. Jan Bedell Brain Coach. We also have great question and answer opportunities on Facebook. Please stay tuned, where you will receive more Brain Coach tips to make life and learning easier. In the meantime, please visit our sponsor, littlegiantsteps.com. They are dedicated to equipping you as parents so that your child can reach their full potential. Remember, neurodevelopment is a dynamic approach to life at any age. So think differently. The solution is not in the problem. Until next week, it's the Brain Coach signing off.